I was so nervous. But I knew I had to try. One morning, my teacher made an announcement. She said, "You will all give an English presentation next week." My heart started beating fast as soon as I heard those words. I had never given a presentation in English before. The idea of speaking in front of the class scared me. My hands felt cold and my stomach felt tight. I kept thinking, what if I forget the words, and what if everyone laughs at me? The more I thought about it, the more nervous I became. I even wanted to tell my teacher that I could not do it. But deep inside, I knew this was important. I knew that if I tried, I could become better at English. So I took a deep breath and said, "Okay, I will try." That night, I went home and sat at my desk. I opened my notebook and stared at the blank page. My mind felt empty because I did not know how to start. I asked myself, what should I talk about? I had so many ideas, but I was afraid to choose the wrong topic. Finally, I decided to talk about something simple that I liked. I began writing short sentences. The first sentence was difficult, but the second was easier. Soon, I had a few lines written on the page. When I read my sentences out loud, I felt shy. My voice was soft, and I was afraid of making mistakes. But I reminded myself, this is only practice. It is okay to make mistakes now. The next day, I practiced again. I stood in front of a mirror and read my sentences slowly. I tried to speak clearly and look confident. At first, I did not like the way I sounded. My pronunciation was not perfect, and I felt embarrassed. But I told myself that practice would make me better. I decided to practice every day. In the morning, I practiced for 10 minutes. At night, I practiced again for 15 minutes. Sometimes, I forgot the words and had to start again. Other times, I spoke too fast and did not understand myself. But I never stopped practicing. I also asked for help. I showed my sentences to my teacher and asked her to check my grammar. She corrected a few mistakes and encouraged me to keep going. At home, I asked my wife Momo to listen to me. She smiled and said, "You can do this. I believe in you." Her words gave me more courage to try harder. I even asked my daughter Lawoon to listen. She is only 10 years old, but she clapped and said, "Papa, you are doing great." That made me feel happy and proud. One day, I recorded my voice while I was practicing. When I listened to it, I felt surprised. My voice sounded better than I thought. This made me want to practice even more. I listened carefully to each word and improved my pronunciation. I practiced again and again until I felt more confident. Finally, the night before the presentation came. I could not sleep because I was nervous. I kept thinking about what would happen the next day. I imagined walking to the front of the classroom. I imagined all my classmates looking at me. My heart raced just thinking about it. But I reminded myself, you have practiced. You are ready. You can do this. These words helped me feel a little calmer. The next morning, I put on my cleanest clothes. I wanted to look confident even if I still felt nervous inside. I left home early so I could be on time. When I arrived at school, my teacher smiled at me. She said, "Are you ready?" I nodded, even though my heart was still beating fast. Finally, my teacher called my name. "Kong Mayat, it's your turn," she said. I stood up and walked slowly to the front of the room. I could feel everyone's eyes on me. My hands were shaking, and my legs felt heavy. I tried to smile, but it was difficult. I took a deep breath and looked at the audience. My voice was soft when I started speaking, but I kept going. I spoke slowly and clearly, just like I practiced. I made some mistakes, but I did not stop. I remembered my promise to myself, don't give up. Each sentence became easier to say. When I finished, I heard people clapping. My teacher smiled and said, "Well done." I felt a huge sense of relief. I realized that I could do it. All the practice had helped me succeed. I felt proud of myself for trying. That moment taught me something important. Fear is normal, but we can be brave. We just need to keep going and never give up. This was my first English presentation. It was not perfect, but it changed me. It showed me that I was stronger than my fear. I walked back to my seat with a smile on my face. My classmates smiled at me too. I knew I had done something special. From that day on, I believed more in myself. I believed that with practice, I could improve my English. I believed that I could stand in front of people and speak. I was so nervous, but I knew I had to try. And I am glad I did. This was the start of a new journey for me. Chapter 1: The day I heard, "You must give a presentation in English." It was a normal day at school. I was sitting in the classroom, listening to my teacher. Everything felt calm and quiet. Then, suddenly, my teacher made an announcement. She said, "Next week, everyone will give an English presentation." I froze in my chair as soon as I heard those words. My heart started to beat very fast. My hands felt cold and sweaty. I could not believe what I was hearing. I thought, an English presentation? In front of everyone? My face felt hot with fear. I wanted to disappear from the classroom. The teacher continued to explain. Each student will speak in English for 3 minutes. You can choose your topic, but you must prepare and present it in front of the class. I wanted to raise my hand and say, "I can't do it." But I stayed quiet. My voice felt stuck in my throat. I looked around the room. Some students looked excited, but many looked nervous, just like me. I realized I was not the only one who was afraid. My teacher smiled and said, "This is your chance to practice English. Don't worry about mistakes. Just try your best." Even though she said those kind words, I was still scared. Speaking English in front of everyone felt impossible to me. My thoughts were racing in my head. What if I forget my words? I thought. What if my classmates laugh at me? What if I fail? The bell rang, and class was over. But I could not stop thinking about the presentation. The fear stayed with me as I walked home. On the way, I remembered the teacher's words again. Just try your best. I wondered if I could really do that. When I reached home, Momo, my wife, asked, "How was your day?" I told her about the presentation. She looked at me and smiled. "You can do this," she said softly. "You just need to practice and believe in yourself." Her words made me feel a little better, but I was still nervous. I went to my room and sat at my desk. I looked at my notebook, wondering how to start. I felt stuck. I didn't know what topic to choose. I didn't know what to write. I thought about giving up. I thought about telling my teacher I was too scared. But then I remembered what Momo had said. She believed in me. My teacher believed in me too. I realized I had to at least try. I picked up my pen and wrote one word. Then I wrote another. Slowly, my presentation started to take shape. It was not perfect. It was not long. But it was a start, and I felt a little proud. I told myself, this is just the beginning. I have time to practice and get better. That thought gave me a small sense of hope. That night, I lay in bed thinking about the presentation. My heart still felt heavy with fear, but there was also a little excitement. I imagined myself standing in front of the class. I imagined speaking clearly and finishing with a smile. I whispered to myself, "You can do this. Just keep going." Those words helped me fall asleep. The day I heard I had to give a presentation in English was the day everything changed. It was the start of a new challenge in my life. I was afraid, but I also knew this could make me stronger. I knew I had to face my fear and try. That day, I learned something important. Sometimes, the things that scare us the most can help us grow the most. Chapter 2. My hands shook. My heart raced. I wanted to run away. The day after the announcement, I still felt nervous. I could not stop thinking about the English presentation. Fear stayed with me like a heavy weight on my chest. When I imagined standing in front of my class, my hands started to shake. My heart raced like it was running a race. I wanted to run away and forget the presentation completely. I told myself, maybe I can skip that day. But deep down, I knew I could not. I knew the teacher would expect me to try. Self-doubt started to grow inside me. I thought, I'm not good at English. I will forget the words. I imagined everyone looking at me and judging me. At school, I could not focus on lessons. I was thinking about the moment I would stand in front of everyone. Every time I thought about it, my heart beat even faster. During lunch, I told one of my classmates how I felt. He said, "I'm nervous too, but we have to do it." His words helped a little, but the fear was still there. When I got home, Momo asked, "Did you practice your presentation?" I shook my head and said, "I don't even know how to start." She smiled and said, "Just write one simple sentence. Start small." I tried to follow her advice. I sat at my desk with my notebook and pen. But my hands were still shaking as I tried to write. I managed to write a few sentences. They were not perfect, but at least I had something. I read them out loud, and my voice was soft and nervous. Lawoon, my daughter, came into the room. She listened and said, "Papa, don't worry. You are doing great." Her sweet voice made me feel a little braver. I practiced a few more times, but I was still scared. I kept thinking, what if I forget everything when I'm on stage? This thought made me feel even more nervous. That night, I lay in bed thinking about the big day. My heart would not calm down. It felt like it was pounding louder than ever. I told myself, maybe I should just tell the teacher I'm sick. But then I remembered why I wanted to do this. I wanted to become better at English. I remembered Momo's smile and Lawoon's encouragement. I thought about how proud they would be if I finished the presentation. This gave me a little hope. The next day, I practiced again in front of the mirror. I looked at my reflection and tried to smile. But it was hard because I still felt shy. I noticed how my hands were shaking when I held the paper. I tried to hold it steady, but it kept moving. I laughed at myself a little, and that helped me relax. I practiced one paragraph, then another. Sometimes I made mistakes, but I kept going. I told myself, it's okay to make mistakes. Just don't give up. Each day, I practiced a little more. The nervousness did not go away, but I started to feel stronger. I reminded myself that fear was normal. I imagined the presentation day in my head. I imagined walking to the front and looking at everyone. I imagined my heart racing but finishing my speech anyway. The more I practiced, the more I believed I could do it. I was still scared, but I started to trust myself. I thought, if I keep practicing, I will be ready. Fear is powerful, but so is hope. I decided to focus on hope instead of fear. I decided to face the presentation with courage. Chapter 3, I took a deep breath and said, I will try. One evening, after a full day of worry, I sat alone in my room. I looked at my notebook with only a few sentences written down. I thought to myself, I can't keep living in fear like this. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. I remembered the words of my wife, Momo, you can do this. Those words echoed in my mind like a small light in the dark. I told myself, I need to make a choice now. I could run away from the challenge, or I could face it. And in that moment, I decided to face it. I opened my eyes and whispered, I will try. My voice was quiet, but my heart felt stronger. For the first time, I believed I could do this. The decision changed everything for me. Instead of thinking about failure, I started thinking about success. I imagined myself speaking with confidence in front of the class. I smiled a little because I could see the picture in my mind. It was a picture of me finishing my presentation and hearing applause. This thought gave me new energy to work harder. I picked up my notebook and pen again. This time, I didn't feel as nervous. I felt ready to take small steps forward. I wrote more sentences for my presentation. I kept the words simple and clear. I knew I didn't need to be perfect, I just needed to try. After I finished writing, I stood up in front of the mirror. I held my paper and started reading slowly. My hands were still shaking, but I didn't stop. I read one paragraph, then another. I made mistakes, but I corrected myself and kept going. Each time I practiced, I felt a little more confident. I practiced in the morning before school. I practiced in the evening after dinner. Sometimes Momo and La Woon listened and clapped for me. Their support made me feel even stronger. They told me, we are proud of you for trying. Those words were like fuel for my heart. I started recording my voice every night. When I listened to the recording, I could hear my mistakes. But I could also hear my improvement. This motivated me to keep practicing. I told myself, one day at a time, you are getting better. I started to feel hope instead of fear. The night before the big day, I looked at myself in the mirror again. I remembered how scared I was at the beginning. But now I felt a quiet confidence inside me. I said to my reflection, you are ready. I smiled because I believed it was true. I knew I had worked hard and prepared as best as I could. On the morning of the presentation, I woke up early. I dressed neatly and packed my notes carefully. I walked to school with my head held high. When I arrived in class, my heart started to beat fast again. But this time, I was not afraid like before. I reminded myself of the decision I had made. I took a deep breath and repeated the words in my head. I will try. And with that, I felt ready to face the challenge. Chapter 4. I had no idea how to start. When I first sat down to write my English presentation, I felt lost. I stared at the blank page for a long time. I had no idea how to start. I thought, what will I say first? I didn't want to make mistakes in my sentences. The more I thought about it, the more nervous I became. I remembered my teacher saying, keep it simple. But even writing a simple sentence felt difficult at that moment. My hands held the pen, but I could not write. I looked at the empty page again inside. I felt like giving up before I even began. But I told myself, you can't give up now. Try something small. I decided to write just one sentence. I wrote, "Hello, my name is Kong Mayat." It was short, but at least I had started. That first sentence gave me a little confidence. I thought, okay, now I can write the next one. Slowly, I wrote another simple sentence. I wrote about my topic in easy words. I kept the sentences short because long ones scared me. One by one, the page started to fill. It was not perfect. Some sentences felt strange, and I was unsure about the grammar. But at least I had something to work with now. I read the sentences out loud. They sounded a bit awkward, but I was happy I had started. Hearing my own voice made me realize where I could improve. I underlined the words I didn't understand well. I planned to ask my teacher or friends for help. I knew I couldn't do this alone. The next day, I showed Momo my sentences. She smiled and said, "This is a good start." Her encouragement made me feel stronger. I also asked my daughter, Lawoon, to listen. She giggled when I made a mistake but said, "Papa, you're good." Her sweet words gave me energy to continue. I went back to my notebook and made some changes. I added new sentences and corrected old ones. The page looked better each time. Sometimes, I felt stuck again. I didn't know what to write next. When that happened, I took a short break and came back. I learned that starting is the hardest part. Once I wrote the first few sentences, the rest came slowly. I just needed to be patient with myself. I told myself, it doesn't need to be perfect. Just finish it. This thought helped me relax. I realized the most important thing was to try. When I finally finished writing the draft, I felt relieved. It wasn't very long, but it was clear and simple. I knew I could build on it during practice. I closed my notebook and smiled. This was only the beginning, but I was proud. I had faced the hardest step, starting. Chapter 5. I practiced, and practiced, and practiced again. Once I had my first draft written, I knew I had to practice. I told myself, the more you practice, the better you will be. So I made a plan to practice every single day. In the morning before school, I read my sentences out loud. At first, my voice was soft and shaky. But I didn't stop, I kept reading each word slowly. I practiced again in the evening after dinner. I stood in front of the mirror and looked at myself as I spoke. I tried to stand tall and look confident, even if I felt nervous. Sometimes I forgot my sentences. I had to stop and look at my notes. Then I started again from the beginning. It was frustrating, but I knew I had to keep going. I reminded myself, you will improve step by step. This thought gave me strength to practice more. I also recorded my voice on my phone. When I listened to it, I heard my mistakes clearly. I felt shy hearing my own voice, but it helped me correct the errors. The first time I listened to my recording, I thought, I sound terrible. But then I reminded myself that practice would make me better. So I recorded again the next day, and the day after that. I also practiced with Momo. She listened carefully and told me where I needed to improve. Her advice was kind but honest, and I appreciated it. Sometimes La Won joined our practice sessions. She clapped when I finished and said, "Papa, you are so good." Her support made me smile and feel stronger. I practiced reading slowly to avoid mistakes. Then I practiced reading a little faster to sound natural. I wanted to balance speed and clarity. There were days when I felt tired and didn't want to practice. But I told myself, if you stop now, you will regret it. So I pushed myself to practice even on those days. Some evenings, I practiced in front of the mirror for 20 minutes. Other days, I practiced for half an hour. The more I practiced, the more comfortable I felt. I began to memorize my sentences. I didn't need to look at my notes as much. This gave me more confidence to speak freely. As I practiced, I also worked on my pronunciation. I said each word clearly and slowly. I wanted everyone to understand me during the presentation. I practiced making eye contact in the mirror. I imagined my classmates in front of me. I told myself, smile and speak confidently. Each practice session made me a little better. My voice became louder and steadier. I could feel my fear slowly going away. Practicing every day was not easy. Sometimes I was busy with work and family. But I always found time because I knew it was important. The more I practiced, the more I believed in myself. I realized that hard work really does make a difference. I started to feel ready for the big day. One night after practice, I said to Momo, "I think I can do it now." She smiled and said, "Yes, you can. You have worked so hard." Her words filled me with pride and hope. I learned that practice is the key to success. No one becomes good at something overnight. You have to try again and again until you improve. Practicing my English presentation taught me patience. It showed me that small steps lead to big progress. And it helped me prepare for one of the biggest challenges of my life. Chapter 6. I asked for help, and that changed everything. At first, I tried to prepare my English presentation all by myself. I thought I had to do everything alone. But soon I realized it was too hard. There were sentences I didn't understand. I was unsure about my grammar. And sometimes, I couldn't pronounce certain words correctly. I felt frustrated and almost wanted to give up. But then I remembered something my teacher always said: ask for help when you need it. So I decided to reach out. The first person I asked was my teacher. I showed her my draft after class. She read it carefully and smiled. "Your sentences are good," she said. "But I can help you make them even better." She corrected a few grammar mistakes and explained why they were wrong. I felt so thankful for her help. The presentation started to sound clearer and smoother. I realized I had learned new things about English just from her feedback. Next, I asked my wife, Momo, for help. She listened patiently as I practiced. She told me where I was speaking too fast. "Slow down a little," she said softly. "You don't need to rush. The audience will understand you better if you speak clearly." Her advice made me feel more confident. Sometimes, I forgot my sentences while practicing. Momo would smile and say, "It's okay. Try again." Her encouragement gave me strength to continue. I also asked my daughter, Lawoon, to help. She is only 10 years old, but she was happy to listen. She clapped every time I finished a paragraph. "Papa, you are amazing," she said with a big smile. Hearing those words made my heart feel warm. I didn't feel so nervous anymore. One evening, I even practiced with a friend from school. We stood together and took turns presenting. He gave me tips about how to look at the audience. "Don't just read from your paper," he said. "Look up and make eye contact. It shows confidence." I practiced his advice many times in front of the mirror. Asking for help changed everything for me. Before, I felt alone and scared. Now, I felt supported and stronger. I learned that people want to help if you ask. My teacher, my family, and my friends all believed in me. Their support made me believe in myself. Each time someone corrected me, I became better. Each time someone encouraged me, I felt more confident. I started to enjoy practicing because I was learning so much. I realized that asking for help is not a weakness. It is a smart way to grow and improve. We can all learn more when we learn together. By the end of the week, I felt ready for the big day. I had practiced hard, and I had so much support from everyone. I knew I could face my fear now. As I went to bed that night, I smiled. I thought about all the people who helped me. I whispered to myself, "Thank you. I will make you proud." Chapter 7. I stood in front of the mirror and spoke to myself. After I asked for help from my teacher, family, and friends, I felt more confident. But I knew I still needed to practice on my own. So I decided to use the mirror. I stood in front of the mirror with my notes in my hand. At first, I felt a little strange talking to my own reflection. It felt like I was giving a presentation to myself. I read the first sentence slowly. I watched my mouth move as I spoke the words. I realized this helped me see how I looked while speaking. I practiced standing tall and straight. I tried to smile as I spoke because I wanted to look confident. It was hard at first, but I kept trying. Sometimes I forgot a word. I looked down at my notes and then looked up again. I repeated the sentence until I could say it without mistakes. I also practiced using my hands while speaking. I didn't want to stand stiff like a robot. The mirror helped me see when my body looked too tense. I noticed my voice was very soft at the beginning. I tried speaking louder and clearer. I wanted the audience to hear every word during the real presentation. Each day, I spent at least 15 minutes in front of the mirror. I read the sentences again and again. I practiced making eye contact with myself. It felt strange, but I could see my improvement. I started to feel more comfortable with my words. I began to believe I could really do this. Some days, I laughed at myself because I looked funny talking to the mirror. But that laughter helped me relax. I remembered that practicing should also be fun. I even practiced giving a big smile at the start and end of my speech. The mirror showed me how much friendlier I looked when I smiled. I wanted my audience to feel comfortable, too. After several days, I didn't need my notes as much. I could say the sentences from memory. This gave me more confidence with every practice session. One evening, Momo came into the room while I was practicing. She smiled and said, "You look very confident now." Her words made me proud of my hard work. I realized the mirror was my silent teacher. It showed me my mistakes and my improvements. It made me feel ready for the big day. I told myself, if I can do it here in front of the mirror, I can do it in front of my class. That thought gave me a lot of strength. I decided to practice with the mirror every day until presentation day. By the end of the week, I could deliver my entire presentation without looking down. I could smile, use my hands naturally, and speak clearly. I was still a little nervous, but I was also proud. Standing in front of the mirror and speaking to myself changed everything. It helped me become confident and calm. It made me believe I was ready for the challenge. Chapter 8. I recorded my voice, and I didn't like it at first. After practicing in front of the mirror, I wanted to try something new. I used my phone to record my voice while I gave the presentation. At first, I felt excited but also very nervous to hear myself. When I played the recording, I was surprised. My voice sounded different than I expected. I heard many mistakes, and it made me feel uncomfortable. I listened carefully to my pronunciation. Some words were not clear. Sometimes I spoke too fast or too slow. I also noticed that my voice was sometimes too soft. I wanted my audience to hear every word clearly. Listening to the recording helped me understand this problem. I felt a little sad because I didn't like what I heard. But I knew this was a good chance to improve. I reminded myself that everyone makes mistakes when learning. I decided to listen to the recording again and again. Each time, I found new things to fix. I wrote down words that were hard to say. I practiced those words many times. I tried to speak slowly and clearly. I even tried to sound more confident. Sometimes, I recorded my voice 3 or 4 times a day. At first, it was difficult, but slowly I got better. I learned to enjoy hearing my own voice. My family helped me, too. Momo listened to my recordings and gave me kind advice. She told me when I did well and when I needed more practice. My daughter, Lawoon, smiled and said, "Papa, you are getting better." Her words made me happy and gave me hope. I kept working hard every day. I learned that hearing my mistakes was important. It showed me what to change. I stopped feeling scared of mistakes. Instead, I started to feel proud of my progress. Every recording made me stronger. I knew that practice would help me succeed. Recording my voice helped me in many ways. I could hear how I sounded, and I could fix problems. It was like having a teacher with me all the time. I also learned to enjoy listening to English. I started listening to songs and podcasts to help my listening skills. Recording myself was part of this learning journey. The first recordings were not perfect. But with time, my voice became clearer and stronger. I began to believe I could speak English well. Recording my voice was not easy at the start. It was strange and sometimes embarrassing. But I kept going because I wanted to improve. Now, I feel more ready for my presentation. I am still nervous, but I have confidence inside me. I know I can do it if I keep practicing. Chapter 9, The Night Before. I couldn't sleep. The night before my big English presentation was very hard. I lay in bed, but my mind was full of thoughts. I was excited, but also very nervous. I kept thinking, what if I forget my words? What if I speak too fast or too slow? These questions made my heart beat faster. I tried to relax, but my hands were sweaty. I looked at the clock many times. The minutes seemed to go very slowly. I wanted to be perfect. I wanted my teacher and friends to be proud of me. But I was scared of making mistakes in front of everyone. I closed my eyes and tried to imagine the presentation. I saw myself standing in front of the class. I heard my voice speaking clearly and slowly. This thought made me feel a little better. I remembered all the practice I did. I practiced every day for a long time. I thought about my family. Momo and Lawoon believed in me. Their support gave me courage. I also remembered my teacher's words. Be confident. Speak slowly. You can do it. These words stayed in my mind. But still, I could not sleep. My brain was too busy. I turned and turned in bed. I got up and went to the living room. I took a deep breath and sat quietly. I thought about all the hard work I did. I told myself, it is okay to be nervous. Nerves mean you care. Tomorrow is a new day. I looked at my notes one more time. I read some sentences slowly. This helped me feel calm. I went back to bed. My eyes closed slowly. Finally, I fell asleep. When morning came, I felt tired but ready. I knew the hard part was over. Now, it was time to show what I learned. Even though I was nervous, I was proud. Proud because I tried. Proud because I never gave up. I learned that feeling nervous is normal. Even adults feel nervous sometimes. The important thing is to try your best. That night taught me a big lesson. Preparation helps you feel stronger. Believing in yourself helps even more. So, even if you cannot sleep before a big day, remember you are ready. Remember you are not alone. You can do it. Just like I did. Chapter 10. Everyone was watching as I walked to the front. The moment came at last. My name was called. I stood up slowly. I could feel all the eyes on me. Everyone in the classroom was looking my way. The room was very quiet. My heart beat fast like a drum. My hands were a little shaky. I took a deep breath to stay calm. I walked to the front of the class. Step by step, I moved closer to the teacher's desk. I saw my friends sitting and watching me. Some smiled and gave me small nods. This made me feel a little braver. I looked at the big screen where I would show my presentation. I placed my notes on the table. I looked at my classmates again. They were waiting for me to start. I thought about everything I practiced. The words, the sentences, the pauses. I remembered my teacher's advice to speak slowly. I felt the nervousness but also a small spark of confidence. I told myself, you can do this. I imagined my family cheering for me in the audience. Then, I opened my mouth to speak. The first words came out slowly but clear. The fear was still there, but I kept going. As I talked, I saw some smiles. I heard some small claps. I felt proud of myself. I looked at the pictures in my presentation. I told the story I had prepared. I used simple English, the best I could. Even if I made mistakes, I did not stop. I smiled when I forgot a word and said it again. I looked around and saw everyone listening. The moment was hard but also very exciting. I learned that speaking in front of people is a skill. It takes practice and courage. Walking to the front was the hardest part for me. But once I started, I felt stronger. I realized I could do many things if I try. That day, I was not just a student. I was a speaker. I was someone who faced a big challenge. This experience changed me. It made me want to learn more. It made me believe in myself. Now, I know the feeling of success. And I know that the first step is always the hardest. Chapter 11. My voice shook, but I kept going. When I started speaking, my voice shook a little. I felt nervous inside. Sometimes, my words came out slowly or not clear. I made some mistakes in English. I forgot a few words. My hands were still a bit shaky. But I did not stop. I took a deep breath and tried again. I remembered that mistakes are okay when learning. Every time I spoke, I learned something new. I tried to speak louder and clearer. Even if I was afraid, I kept going. I saw my teacher smiling at me. My friends were watching quietly. Their eyes gave me courage to continue. I told myself, it's okay to be nervous. It's okay to make mistakes. What matters is that I try my best. I spoke slowly and carefully. I used simple words I had practiced. I smiled when I made a mistake and corrected it. My voice was not perfect. Sometimes I stumbled on long sentences. But I never stopped talking. Step by step, my confidence grew. I felt proud that I was standing there. I was sharing my story in English. After a while, the shaking voice became stronger. I felt calmer and more sure of myself. I knew I was doing something very important. I learned that courage is not being perfect. It is trying, even when you feel afraid. It is moving forward with a brave heart. That day, I showed courage. I showed that I could speak in English. And I was happy I never gave up. Chapter 12. Then something surprising happened. As I spoke, I looked at the audience. At first, I thought they might be bored or not listen. But then, I saw something surprising. The people in the room were quiet. They were watching me closely. Their eyes showed they were interested. I felt their attention, and it made me feel stronger. I kept talking and telling my story. The words came more easily now. I saw some people nodding their heads. They smiled when I said something funny. They listened carefully to every word. This made me feel happy inside. I realized they wanted to hear me. I was not alone in this moment. My confidence began to grow slowly. I felt less nervous than before. I started to believe in myself more. The more I spoke, the easier it became. I remembered all the practice I had done. All my hard work was helping me now. The audience's kindness gave me courage. Their smiles and attention gave me strength. I was not scared anymore. I spoke clearly and with a calm voice. My mistakes were fewer, and I felt proud. This was the moment I knew I could do it. When I finished, the room was quiet for a second. Then, people clapped and smiled. I felt so happy and proud inside. I learned that speaking is not only about words. It's about sharing your story and connecting with others. That day, I grew as a person and as an English learner. Chapter 13. I said my last sentence, and everyone clapped. When I said my last sentence, I felt a big wave of relief. My heart was beating fast, but I was happy. I looked up and saw the whole room clapping for me. The clapping was loud and warm. People smiled and looked at me with kindness. Some gave me thumbs up or nodded their heads. I felt proud of myself because I finished my presentation. I remembered all the practice and hard work. All the nervous moments were worth it now. In that moment, I knew I did something important. I faced my fear and did my best. I learned that trying is more important than being perfect. The applause made me feel confident to speak again. It gave me courage to keep learning English. I realized that mistakes are part of learning. I thanked the audience in my heart. Their support was a gift I will never forget. It was a moment I will always remember. That day, I grew stronger and braver. I learned that success comes from effort and belief. I was ready for new challenges in English and in life. Chapter 14. I couldn't believe I did it. After my presentation finished, I sat down and took a deep breath. My hands were still shaking, but I was so happy inside. I looked around and thought, did I really do it? Did I really speak in English? For many days and nights, I was afraid I could not do it. But now, the fear was gone. I felt proud and surprised by myself. I remembered all the hard work, practicing, asking for help, and trying again. All that effort had helped me. It was like a big dream coming true. My friends and teacher came to say well done. Their smiles made me feel even better. They told me I was brave and strong. I smiled and said thank you. I knew this was only the beginning of my English journey. Now I believe I can do more. That day taught me an important lesson. Even if you are scared, you can do great things. Believe in yourself and keep trying. I couldn't believe I did it, but now I know I can. This success gave me hope and more confidence. I was ready to learn more English and speak more often. Chapter 15. This English presentation changed my life. After my first English presentation, my life started to change slowly but surely. Before, I was very shy and scared to speak English. Now, I felt stronger and more confident every day. I learned that practice is very important. Every day, I practiced speaking English with my friends and family. Sometimes it was hard, but I did not give up. I also learned that courage is not the absence of fear, but doing something even when you are afraid. Standing in front of the class was scary, but I tried my best. That courage helped me grow as a person. I realized that making mistakes is okay. When I made mistakes, I listened carefully and fixed them. Mistakes helped me learn better English. Because of that presentation, more people listened to me. My teachers and friends encouraged me to speak more and try harder. I felt proud to share my ideas in English. This experience made me want to help others who feel afraid to speak English. I want to tell them, you can do it, too. If I can do it, so can you. Now, I believe English can open many doors for me. I want to travel, work, and meet people from all over the world. Learning English is the key to my future. That presentation was the first big step. It taught me the power of practice, courage, and never giving up. I will keep learning English every day. This story is for you, too. Remember, your journey can start today. Be brave, work hard, and never stop trying. Now it's your turn to speak English with confidence. I want you to know something very important. If I can stand in front of people and speak English, so can you. I was once afraid, nervous, and unsure, just like you might feel now. But I kept trying every day. I practiced my English little by little. I listened, spoke, and learned from my mistakes. It was not easy, but I never gave up. And today, I speak English with confidence. I believe you can do this too. Your English journey can start right now, today. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to try and keep going. Easy English Official is here to help you. Together, we will practice and learn step by step. You will feel better, speak clearer, and be proud of yourself. Remember, every big success starts with a small step. Take that step now, speak your first English sentence today. You are not alone. I believe in you. Now, it's your turn to speak English with confidence. Let's start this journey together with Easy English Official. Keep practicing, keep smiling, and keep learning. Your future is bright, and your voice matters.